One day, Kashiwata and Oota stare at each other over a game of Old Maid. One has a total poker face, while the other is in full rage mode. Classmates notice the tension and start spectating the match. It turns out Oota challenged our MC to prove he's not a total open book who wears his heart on his sleeve, so he subtly pushes one card forward, praying Kashiwata falls for the bait. She sniffs out the trap immediately, choosing a different card and clutching the win with zero effort. Nobody is shocked Oota caught the L since his face was basically leaking his entire hand the whole time. Frustrated, Oota demands a rematch, claiming the first round was just a warm-up before the real deal starts, and he actually gets her to play again, equipping a super confident smirk. He teases the Joker card forward, so it stands out even more because this time he believes his strategy is 10,000 IQ. Instead of hiding his expression, he'll overact his feelings to confuse her, but the results are exactly the same. But Kashiwata is straight up op, taking another win without even a twitch. Even though the class tells him to stop the grind, Oota stubbornly challenges her again, declaring he's now in mind-reader mode. She accepts the rematch, shuffling the deck and dealing the cards with that classic legendary blank expression. Oota tries to read her stats, studying her breathing and every micro-movement for a tell, but her poker face is absolute. He's betting it all on her expression, breaking the moment she draws the Joker, or when he finally snatches it from her. He makes his move, picking a card while locking eyes with her. Big mistake, he can't read a single pixel of her face, and it turns out he just pulled the Joker himself. He looks back at Kashiwata, but she's not even flashing a victory emote. Cold. Oota is now convinced she's tapping into another dimension to secure these wins, so he leans in closer, staring deep into her eyes. He sees her start to tremble slightly and assumes she's about to celebrate her victory, but he thinks she's shaking with laughter and gets triggered that she's mocking his struggle. He angrily accuses her of trolling him, but Kashiwata is officially declared the overall server champion. A new day starts, and while Kashiwata is walking through the halls, a toy spider suddenly jump scares her. She claims she's surprised, but her expression stays at a solid 0%. Oota reels the spider back, frustrated that his prank didn't trigger a single reaction animation. He spends the entire day trying to get a reaction out of her, but his attempts keep getting nerfed. During the break, Oota vents about his failed mission to his friends Tadakoro and Sada. They try to tell him to stop bothering our MC, but then he drops the law on why he's so obsessed. The flashback takes us back to the opening ceremony during the spring season. While Oota was entering the gate, he was busy fending off a wild crow NPC. Just when he thought he won the encounter, the crow dropped a gift on his shoulder and flew away. That's when he saw Kashiwata, who also got hit by the same random event. Actually, she had it way worse. The droppings landed right on her head while he only got a uniform stain. Oota found it wild that she didn't even seem bothered by the disaster. He followed her in and realized they were in the same class lobby. Ever since that day, he's been on a non-stop quest to see her actually break character and show some emotion. His friends give him the "you're down bad" look, and Sada warns him not to overdo the harassment. Finally, lunchtime hits and Kashiwata gracefully prepares her consumables. She takes a drink, and Oota suddenly brags that he swapped her tea for vinegar, waiting for her to enter a state of suffering. But her face remains perfectly neutral, like she's tanking the hit with zero damage. Oota starts doubting his own prank, wondering if he fumbled the switch or if she's just a god at hiding pain. He takes a sip from his own bottle, only to get obliterated by the sour taste of vinegar. Horrified by the taste, he immediately spits it out. Kashiwata makes a tiny sound and starts shaking, even though her face is still in NPC mode. Oota accuses her of laughing at his fail, and she calmly explains she saw him smirking earlier, so she pulled a pro move and switched the bottles when he wasn't looking. The boys realize Oota is the one getting clowned, and that Kashiwata is the one with the real power level here. Suddenly, Kashiwata grabs his sleeve and drops a major lore bomb. She actually likes him. Oota's face turns bright red as he looks away, muttering that she obviously doesn't mean it romantically. But Kashiwata doubles down, calmly clarifying that her feelings are 100% romantic. Thinking she's still teasing him, Oota activates his dash skill and backs away. This actually makes Kashiwata sad, though her character model fails to render the emotion properly. She asks if he hates her, and he stammers that he does because her expressionless face creeps him out. She moves in closer, making Oota super nervous as he tries to dodge her gaze. But our MC keeps her sights locked directly on his face. She says she's relieved because his true feelings are always written all over his face, in 4K. Oda enters a state of embarrassed anger, calling her creepy and vowing that one day he'll be the one to scare her. Kashiwata just quietly resets to her seat like nothing happened. His friends notice a tiny, almost invisible smile forming on her lips. They wonder if she's happy, but since she's facing away, Oda totally misses her first real emotional display. Another day at lunch, Oda calls a strategy meeting to figure out how to take down Kashiwata. His squad refuses to help with his schemes, but he insists he's just in observation mode for now. They ask why he even summoned them if he's just going to be a lurker. Oda ignores them, certain that Kashiwata will eventually break her stone face, and he just needs to camp until it happens. Sada decides to join the party, admitting he's also curious about our MC. He trolls Oda, saying Oda is clearly the most interested, so as a bro he should provide backup. Tadakoro joins the teasing, which just sends Oda's blush meter through the roof. The next morning, Kashiwata is the first one to spawn in the classroom. The boys start stalking her from the doorway, shocked she's there so early. They watch as she pulls out a textbook and starts grinding her study levels. Sada thinks it's just normal behavior, but Oda tells him to look closer. They notice her softly humming and swaying her head like she's in a chill-hop video. Oda believes this is a rare animation she only plays when she thinks she's solo in the room. Sensing someone's aggro, Kashiwata turns around, but the boys duck into cover just in time. She goes back to her book, and the boys sigh in relief that they weren't caught in 4K. As the day goes on, Oda's stalking gets him in trouble with the teacher for not following instructions or causing minor glitches. At lunch, the trio literally surrounds her by pushing their tables together like a raid party. Still, she stays completely expressionless, making Oda's frustration levels hit a new peak. Sada pulls out his notes, pointing out she looks slightly flushed and is blinking 15 times per minute. Talk about dedication. Tadakoro is shook by how hard they're overanalyzing her, reminding them they have a cleaning quest at the pool soon. It turns out Kashiwata is also assigned to the same pool cleaning event. While the other students are complaining about the tedious grind, Kashiwata is diligently scrubbing the floor. Oda and his friends sneak up to the fence to continue their observation mission. Suddenly, someone screams that there's a wild raccoon nearby. Desperate to skip the chores, everyone rushes toward the raccoon spawn point except for Kashiwata, who stays focused on the objective. The boys are impressed by her maxed-out concentration, but plot twist, Kashiwata is actually hyped about the raccoon too. She's just way too shy to break character. While Oda is busy tracking her, Sada points out that our MC usually plays the solo campaign at school. Suddenly, Oda steps out with a devious grin, announcing he's going to reward her for the hard work. He tries to yeet a stream of water at her with the hose, but she skillfully dodges like she has ultra instinct. Oda is tilted, confused how she avoided his attack so easily. In his confusion, he fumbles the hose and sprays himself, completely soaking his own outfit. He blames her and tries another attack, but she dodges him once more. Suddenly, a wild stream of water hits him from behind. He turns to find Sada and Tadakoro have joined the fray with water guns, grinning like villains. Tadakoro even hands a water gun to Kashiwata, much to Oda's dismay. Playful chaos erupts as everyone starts splashing each other, though Oda keeps insisting he's still mad. Sada lands a headshot on Oda, distracting him from targeting Kashiwata for a split second. Our MC watches them for a moment before deciding to join the party, running into the line of fire. Kashiwata gets hit by Oda, but then Oda gets in-star sprayed by all three of them at once. The battle continues, but it's basically a 3v1 raid against poor Oda. Eventually, he collapses from stamina drain and realizes he's been the party's punching bag. He jumps back up to chase them as they tease him for being such an easy target. Suddenly, a high-level teacher hears the noise and crashes the party. The teacher catches Kashiwata, Oda, and the squad in a water gun fight and hits them with a massive scolding for fooling around during cleaning duty. The group tries to dash away, but the teacher manages to catch Tadakoro by the collar. Soon, all four are in the kneeling of shame while he lectures them about pool safety. As a penalty, they have to clean the pool all over again, even though the boys weren't even assigned to this map. Oda grumbles about the unfair patch, while Kashiwata quietly walks up and thanks him. Oda's face goes full tomato mode, and when she moves in to inspect his expression, he flinches and runs away. The boys watch from the sidelines, noticing that faint smile on Kashiwata's face once again. Meanwhile, the rest of the class is still off-map, probably still hunting for that raccoon. Another day, Oda challenges Kashiwata to a guess which hand holds the candy minigame. She touches both hands, reads his expression like a cheat code and figures it out instantly. She tries to pry it open, but Oota is stubbornly holding that defense line. During their swimming class, Oota flexes his speed stats and impresses the entire lobby. Even the teacher gives him a high rating for his performance. After the boys' relay ends, the girls are called to take their places, and Oota's eyes immediately lock onto Kashiwada. While the boys are chatting, Oota confidently claims that Kashiwada probably has 0 swimming skill points. However, Sada points out she might actually be an op swimmer since she looks so calm, even mimicking her legendary blank NPC expression. Once the girls start the swimming quest, they realize Kashiwada isn't with the group, and suddenly her face is down as if she's about to hit a game over. The teacher rushes over to rescue her, only to find that Kashiwada's face remains completely unbothered. She explains she wasn't drowning but was actually swimming, though the teacher thinks her logic is totally glitched. The teacher then pings Oota, ordering him to carry Kashiwada through a swimming tutorial while he watches the rest of the server. Oota looks visibly nerfed by the request, but the teacher insists so Kashiwada can join the relay event later. Back in the water, Kashiwada gives a quiet GG to Oota for agreeing to teach her, but Oota just starts walking away, trying to abandon the quest. Sada offers to take over the carry, which instantly triggers Oota's jealousy, making him return and claim he's the only one with the max level required to teach her. He starts the tutorial by showing her how to kick to gain momentum, and at first it looks like a genuine training arc, easing his friend's doubts. However, Oota starts smirking because he's planning to let go and trigger her panic animation. After waiting for the perfect frame, Oota releases his hold, and while Kashiwada's face stays blank, her body starts flailing because she's actually drowning for real. In a panic, she grabs onto Oota's torso to stop herself from sinking, but Oota is struggling to break her aggro. In the absolute chaos, she accidentally clings to his swimming trunks instead. Tadakoro watches from the sidelines with a worried expression, muttering that he literally cannot comprehend their gameplay anymore. When Oota finally climbs out of the pool, Tadakoro notices his gear has been stretched out and nerfed. Oota swears revenge for the humiliation, but before he can vent, Sada points out that Kashiwada is up next for the girls' relay race. Oota stops to spectate, and to everyone's surprise, Kashiwada actually swims even if her form is totally janky. Oota's friends troll him because he looks like a proud coach, which he tries to deny with a quick no cap. He leaves to fix his scuffed swim trunks, but before he can, the lobby starts screaming in alarm. Turning back, he sees a commotion in the water and immediately dives in to save Kashiwada from the Shadow Realm. When they resurface, he checks her HP, but Tadakoro nervously points out that Oota's swimwear is currently floating away. The girls scream and Oota curses Kashiwada for putting him in yet another humiliating cutscene. The next day, Oota tells Kashiwada he's prepared a present for her, dropping a literal grasshopper on her desk. To his annoyance, she stays expressionless, even though she's secretly terrified of insects. He tries again with a pop-up toy, but even when she's startled, her face stays in default mode. Finally, Oota equips a mask to jump scare her, but instead of a scream, Kashiwada starts trembling in silent laughter while keeping her stoic face. Before he can try a different strat, Tabuchi calls him outside the classroom, sternly telling him to stop bothering Kashiwada because his actions are bordering on toxic behavior. Oota insists she's totally misunderstanding the meta, but when Tabuchi demands an explanation, Sada blurts out that Oota only bothers Kashiwada because he's down bad for her. Embarrassed, Oota shakes Sada and loudly denies the romance route, but Tabuchi remains unconvinced. She warns him that if Kashiwada ever stops logging into school, it'll be his fault. Sada advises him to nerf the antics, and Tadakoro agrees, noting that Tabuchi can be a terrifying raid boss. As they discuss how serious she is, Oota grows annoyed that someone is spectating his every move. He spots Kashiwada leaving the class and tries to trigger another interaction, but Tabuchi grabs his shoulder and reminds him she's always watching. Later, the party notices something unusual since Tabuchi seems to be stalking Kashiwada instead of Oota. When Oota calls her out on it, he reasons she must be curious about Kashiwada too because she's so weird. Tabuchi denies it, claiming she's just playing protector because Oota won't stop pestering her. Oota looks at her with zero belief and accuses her of hiding something, which quickly escalates into a PvP argument. Sada adds his own observation, asking why Tabuchi has been tailing Kashiwada like a shadow. Almost shyly, Tabuchi admits she's actually a huge fan of Kashiwada, explaining she feels a massive happiness buff whenever Kashiwada slips up and shows even a tiny bit of emotion. However, she complains that Oota keeps blocking her line of sight whenever he tries to bother her. In full seriousness, she declares herself the president of the Kashiwada fan club, so Oota must ask for permission before interacting. Oota stares at her in disbelief, convinced she's some kind of high-level psycho. They begin to argue about the fan club until Tabuchi proudly claims she can actually read Kashiwata's subtle expressions. Oota is shocked, and Tabuchi smugly adds that she reached that level only after spending countless hours observing her idol, something Oota could never match. Later, Sada enters a room and finds Kashiwata hiding in a small gap in the map. Tabuchi immediately appears, offering a hand to help her up while assuring her there's no need to be afraid, even though Kashiwata was never in fear mode. Back in the hall, Tabuchi resumes her quarrel with Oota, claiming Kashiwata's soul is silently crying out because of his constant harassment. Kashiwata calmly asks if Tabuchi is really her fan, and Tabuchi freezes, totally embarrassed at being found out, and insists she's just an admirer, not a creepy stalker. Oota teases that Kashiwata probably thinks she's a total weirdo now that the secrets are out, leaving Tabuchi visibly crushed. But then Kashiwata approaches her and softly says she finds Tabuchi interesting and would like to be friends instead. In an instant, Tabuchi's mood stats skyrocket as she hugs Kashiwata tightly and with a victorious grin declares she now holds the friend title, while Oota is just an insect. As the two argue, Kashiwata suddenly admits she doesn't really want to be Oda's friend, but she doesn't finish her sentence as she turns faintly shy, leaving both Oota and Tabuchi puzzled by the dialogue. Oda's friends quietly note that these two rivals might actually be more alike than they realize. One day at lunch, the cafeteria announces that the legendary yakisoba bread is available, and every boy rushes the counter. Oota manages to snag one first and eats happily while Tadakoro watches in envy, amazed by how fast Oota secures the loot. Sada notes he's never seen Oota bring a lunchbox and wonders if his parents even make them. Kashiwata overhears the conversation while quietly observing her own lunchbox. The next day, before the lunch bell even rings, Oota dashes out to make sure he's first in line at the cafeteria. But as he rounds the corner, he finds Kashiwata standing right in front of him. He realizes she didn't ask to go to the restroom earlier and quickly figures out she planned this ambush. He tries to move past her, but Kashiwata shifts her position, blocking his path every single time. Soon the other students rush past, making Oota miss out on all the S-tier bread, leaving him with something he doesn't even like. He convinces himself this was payback for all his trolling, and he vows to get even with her. The next day, as soon as the bell rings, Oota bolts from his seat again. But once more, Kashiwata is waiting in the hallway. He smirks confidently, declaring she won't stop him this time. But Kashiwata looks a little shy, glancing around as if searching for a quest item. The gesture confuses Oota until she suddenly holds out a lunchbox. She tells him he can have it, admitting she made it for him yesterday but was too nervous to hand it over. As students start to rush past them again, Oota grows completely flustered, stubbornly insisting he doesn't want it anyway because it probably tastes like mid-tier food. Tadakoro immediately asks if he can have the loot instead, making Oota snatch the box and declare that it's his and his alone. When he finally opens it, he's disappointed to find only apple slices. He complains that he should have just bought bread, but Kashiwata quietly smiles to herself. Later that week, Oota comes up with another scheme to make her show some emotion, planning to yeet a paper airplane at her right when a jack-in-the-box pops out, hoping to catch her off guard. But when Kashiwata opens the toy, she immediately turns to Oota, ruining his frame timing. The paper airplane lands on the floor and gets stepped on by Tabuchi, who walks over to gently brush Kashiwata's hair. As Oota trudges back to his seat, he notices two colorful hair ties left on a nearby desk. The homies are commenting on how these items look like high-tier, expensive loot. Oota just smirks, already plotting a prank to finally get a reaction out of Kashiwata. Oota walks to the window holding one of the hair ties, teasing that he's going to yeet it outside. But to everyone's surprise, a strong gust of wind suddenly blows it right out of his hand. Tabuchi immediately snaps at him to go retrieve it, but Oota protests that it's impossible. Before the argument can continue, they notice Kashiwata looks unusually downcast, and when she moves her hands, they see tears brewing in her eyes. Oota is frozen, unable to believe he's actually seeing her cry. A moment later, Kashiwata rage quits the classroom. Sada suggests that the hair tie must have been some legendary tier item for her, and Tabuchi shares it was actually a gift from her grandmother. Without a word, Oda bolts out of the room to start a recovery mission. When Kashiwata later returns, the boys ask if she's seen him, but she just shakes her head. Tabuchi scowls, muttering he probably went on a journey to purify his toxic heart, while Sada guesses he just felt awkward and logged out. By the time school ends, the wind has turned into a literal storm event. Sada and Tadakoro spot Oda out in the rain, soaked and searching for the item, and even though he stubbornly denies looking for it, his friends see right through him. Sada offers to help, and soon all three are combing the school grounds in a hardcore search and rescue quest. The longer it takes, the guiltier Oda feels for losing something so precious. Just as he's about to hit give up, Tadakoro shouts that he's found the loot. They rush over and find it had fallen near the front gate, ending up in the lost and found box. He hands the scuffed hair tie to Oda, who immediately speedruns to Kashiwata's house. When she opens the door, a drenched Oda awkwardly holds out the hair tie, along with a new one he bought to make up for the damage. Suddenly, Kashiwata's grandmother appears from inside the base, making Oda freeze in shock since he assumed she had despawned long ago based on Kashiwata's reaction. The granny tells him to wait and goes to fetch some towels to clear his soaked debuff. Oda demands to know why Kashiwata was crying if her grandma is still online. Calmly, Kashiwata replies she just got some dirt in her eyes and it triggered a visual bug. Furious at the misunderstanding, Oda blames it all on Tabuchi, but when Kashiwata smiles faintly and promises to treasure the item, he turns bright red and runs away in embarrassment. Meanwhile, Tabuchi is out in the rain, searching for the lost hair tie like it's a legendary quest item. But Oda is busy making moves, suddenly asking for Kashiwata's Lime ID to add her to his friend list. Tadakoro starts trolling him instantly, though Oda insists this is strictly for a high-stakes competition. He explains they're playing a stealth messaging mini-game during class, where the first person to get caught by the teacher catches an automatic L. Kashiwata quietly hits the accept button on the terms, secretly hyped that she finally unlocked Oda on her social feed. As class begins, Oda equips a confident smirk, looking at her like he's already won the match. He yeets his first message, capping about a surprise exam and claiming the teacher just put her name on the hit list board. Kashiwata checks the board only to find it's completely blank, realize she's being trolled. Meanwhile, Oda is already theory crafting his next move, muttering his strategy under his breath, completely forgetting his mic is hot. The teacher, Oniwarada, immediately calls him out, making the entire lobby erupt in laughter. As the lecture continues, Oda spams her with his most cursed lime stamps, like the human-faced potato trying to break her poker face. Kashiwata stares at the memes in total silence, leaving Oda shocked that his best comedy loot didn't trigger a single smile emote. What he doesn't realize is that her internal amusement meter is actually peaking right now. Oniwarada catches Oda lagging again and smacks him, scolding him for having zero focus on the main quest. Oda's face turns bright red as he takes massive embarrassment damage. Moments later, he sends a scary image to try and jump scare her. Her body starts trembling, but her face stays in that permanent neutral skin. Oda totally misreads the reaction, thinking she's laughing, so he sends a bald edit of her photo to escalate the griefing. Kashiwata is shaking like crazy now, but her face is still 100% calm. Oda is confused, unsure if he's dealing physical or psychic damage. Suddenly, a paper ball projectile hits him, and opening it reveals a warning ping from Tabuchi. Annoyed, Oda scribbles a toxic reply and yeets it back at her. Tabuchi reads the note, and her jaw drops when she finds out Oda and Kashiwata are officially trading DMs. She can't believe he secured her ID first, and her morale drops so hard she literally collapses onto her desk. Oda watches the drama before noticing Kashiwata is finally typing in the chat. She asks if he's finally come up with an answer to her question. He's confused for a second, until he realizes she's talking about her earlier romance confession. His face redlines and he enters full panic mode. He stands up ready to rage, but Oniwarada is already there, flaming him for fiddling with his phone during the lecture. The teacher even calls him out for grinning, accusing him of browsing some NSFW sites. Oda tries to pin the aggro on Kashiwata, but Oniwarada isn't buying it because she's been playing perfectly quiet this whole time. Now let's see the teacher's POV as he starts his homeroom routine. He enters the room and students immediately speedrun to their seats. He feels a bit nerfed because he realizes his students still haven't warmed up to his personality. Scanning the lobby, he sees everyone is just waiting for the server to close for the day. But he knows he can always rely on Kashiwata, since she's the only player who doesn't show fear or hesitation around him. Every day she looks him dead in the eye with zero flinching, a total boss move. He totally misses the fact that she's actually checking her Lime notifications. Then he locks eyes with Oota, Kashiwata's polar opposite in terms of stats. He catches Oota mumbling and decides to pull his aggro. As Oota growls, Oniwarada notes that his messy skin and delinquent behavior are a perfect match. Catching him AFK again, the teacher smacks him with a notebook to reset his focus. He sees Kashiwata shaking and assumes she's finally breaking character with laughter. Soon, the rest of the class joins in on the laughter. Oniwarada thinks he's found the ultimate meta for his lectures. He just needs to spam more humor. He gives a silent thanks to Kashiwata for the inspiration. He tries to drop a few puns to keep the momentum going. But the whole class just looks bored, and the atmosphere gets way heavier. The vibes are officially cooked. He checks Kashiwata for backup, but even she looks like she's suffering from a mood debuff. He turns to Oota hoping to break the ice, but Oota is also in a state of pure agony. Suddenly, Tabachi faints, and the teacher wonders if his jokes are actually dealing toxic damage. He spots Oota on his phone again, and decides to use him to liven up the lobby. The second Oota stands up, the teacher is right in his face. Oota stands up, but Oniwarada is already right there like a scripted event. He accuses Oota of looking at 18+ content, though inwardly he's praising him for being the class savior. He notices Oda's face is super red and starts wondering if the kid has a crush on him. After class, he calls Oota in for a private cutscene. He thanks him for the save, but tells him he can't reciprocate those feelings, leaving Oota completely stun-locked. Later, Tabachi challenges Oota to a 1v1 duel because she's tired of his griefing. She brings up the hair tie incident, saying that even though the item was recovered, he's still a toxic player. Kashiwata doesn't even care, just happily consuming her lunch loot in the background. Tabachi is salty because people are starting to compare her to Oota, which is a major blow to her rep. To prove she's built different, she challenges him to a reaction battle. The first one to break character and show an obvious reaction catches the L. The stakes are high, the loser has to stay away from Kashiwata forever. Kashiwata hears this, and her morale takes a hit. Oota hits accept on the challenge, and the rivalry aura starts glowing between them. The competition starts, and both players maintain a solid poker face through the entire lecture. Oniwarada drops the exam results, and Tabachi is sure Oota is going to rage quit when he sees his score. She scores a 95, a massive W, but she manages to keep her expression neutral to stay in the game. When Oota loots his results, she's watching him like a hawk, but he shows zero emotion. She wonders if he actually buffed his grades and sneaks a peek at his paper. To her horror, he scored a literal 0. She thinks he must be in a state of total shock, but Oota is just used to these bottom-tier scores. He turns to her knowing she's confused, but he's already made peace with his low INT build. After class, Oota camps out waiting for people to leave so he can jump scare Tabachi. Two students are about to extract when some weird fan merch suddenly dangles in front of them. Before they can even id the item, Tabachi dashes in with high-speed movement to snatch it. The students think they just saw a glitch and move on. Meanwhile, the two rivals are in a total stare-down, neither willing to drop their A-game. The next morning, Oota brings some hot takoyaki to the lobby. He tells Tabachi they need to sync them to see who flinches first, but both of them immediately fail to keep a straight face. Oda's friends start looting the takoyaki too, carefully eating while inviting Kashiwata to join the party. Kashiwata tanks a whole ball with zero reaction, while Tabachi and Oota start flaming each other for flinching. Tabachi looks at Kashiwata, trying to stay calm so her idol will be proud of her. But Kashiwata drops a wholesome buff, saying she actually thinks Tabachi is cuter when she reacts naturally. Tabachi's tough facade finally cracks because no one has ever called her cute before. Then the boys start spam calling her cute too, and her face turns bright red from the compliment barrage. Totally overwhelmed, she rage quits the room in pure embarrassment. Oota claims a victory royale, but Kashiwata asks if having zero emotions is actually the meta. Oota says yes, because if people can read your chat logs, you're always at a disadvantage. Kashiwata admits she actually envies players like Oota, because everyone knows exactly what he's feeling. In her case, people barely even take her dialogue seriously. She pulls a classic runaway move, leaving Oota confused and blushing in the classroom. The class is now assigned a clean the gym quest. Oota notices Kashiwata is missing from the group and finds out she's solo cleaning the storage room. Seeing a chance to spook her, he speedruns toward the storage area. He enters, but she's nowhere in sight, so he starts scouting the zone. He pulls a toy rat from his inventory, wondering where to place the trap. Then he spots Kashiwata in a gap, clearly hunting for something herself. She says she saw something scurrying and wanted a closer look at the graphics. Oota thinks it might be a real rat mob and decides to help her find it. Meanwhile, the coach checks the quest progress and decides the cleanup is officially finished. He glances toward the storage room and decides to hit the lock button. Tadakoro tries to warn him that the duo is still inside, but the coach ignores the ping and locks them in. Inside, Oota hears the lock sound effect and starts to panic. Kashiwata asks if they're trapped, and Oota dashes to the door to check. The door won't budge, they're officially soft-locked in the room. Since school ended early after exams, he realizes nobody is coming to save them, which is a major. He looks at Kashiwata and gets tilted because she's acting like her internet just went out, completely unbothered. Oota starts looking for a glitch or an exit, considering just punching a hole through the wall. He sees Kashiwata trembling and assumes she's laughing at his panic. He roasts her for being so chill, but she points out that he's the one currently losing his mind. He tries to argue, but his stomach drops a massive grumble, betraying his hunger stats. Embarrassed, he tries to hit the deny button on his hunger. Kashiwata starts trembling again, then pulls a small candy loot from her inventory to offer him. He refuses at first, but she pulls out even more pieces, so he eventually hits accept on the trade. He finally gives in, and the two share the candy as the evening scene drags on. Oota starts worrying they'll be stuck until the morning reset when Kashiwata suddenly clings to him. He asks what she's doing, and she points to the shelf, claiming she saw a ghost mob. He looks and just sees a tiny lizard, which is definitely not a high-level threat. Kashiwata thanks him for being there, admitting she would have been terrified to be trapped alone. Oota realizes the shaking wasn't a laugh animation, but a fear debuff. He tries to hide his concern by being toxic, but our MC just ignores it, completely unbothered. Suddenly, a 200 IQ idea hits him. Since he knows she's scared of ghosts, he grabs a nearby sheet to scare her. He goes for a dramatic scare with the sheet, but his agility stat fails him, and he trips right on top of her. Suddenly, the door swings open, revealing Oniwarada and two classmates catching them red-handed. They're completely stun-locked seeing Oota in such a spicy position with Kashiwata. Oniwarada starts the scolding session immediately, while Oota frantically tries to explain the glitch. Flashback time, when Kashiwata was younger, her class played dodgeball. She was hit by the ball instantly. A classmate asked if she was tilted, but she calmly said she actually had fun. Still, the NPCs couldn't believe her because her face stayed at a solid 0% emotion. The kids felt uneasy since Kashiwata never reacted to their stories, like her UI was completely broken. Because of her permanent blank expression, her classmates slowly started avoiding her. But now her playthrough is finally different. Now Kashiwata is always being approached by Oota, who's constantly trying to scare her out of her shell. He uses a jack-in-the-box for his latest prank, but when it pops out, he's the one who nearly hits the ceiling. Oota notices a faint blush on her cheeks and immediately turns red himself, entering full-blown panic mode. Tadakoro catches the scene too, teasing Oota for finally making the stone-faced MC blush. Oota denies everything, while Tadakoro trolls him for having a face like a ripe tomato. But none of them notice the tiny, rare smile forming on Kashiwata's face. One morning, Oota asks Kashiwata to join his party to watch a movie on Sunday. His friends are stunned, unable to believe Oota was bold enough to actually invite her on a date. He quickly clarifies it's not a date and shows them a poster of an upcoming horror film. Since he knows Kashiwata is terrified of ghosts, he believes this is the perfect opportunity to see her show some emotion for once. He points at her, claiming Sunday will finally be the day he breaks her poker face. After thinking it over, Kashiwata hits the accept button on his quest invitation. Tadakoro is curious if her expression will finally glitch and briefly considers spectating, though Sada advises him to stay out of it. When Tabuchi spawns in the classroom, everyone quickly clears the area around Kashiwata. Shortly after, Kashiwata receives a Lime message from Oota telling her to meet him at Oxpark at 10 AM on Sunday. When Sunday arrives, Oota finds Kashiwata by the fountain, and seeing her in casual skins catches him off guard, causing his face to redline. Kashiwata stands up, suggesting they finally head toward the theater map. Embarrassed by his own reaction, Oota insists this is not a date as he turns away in a huff. Kashiwata lightly grabs his sleeve, which only makes him more flustered as they continue their 1v1 walk together. At the theater, Oota studies the horror poster with confidence, convinced this film's jump scares will finally trigger a reaction from her. Once inside the cinema, they take their seats with no other NPCs nearby to ruin the vibe. Oota gets hyped as he quietly reviews his secret plan to use a jelly prop to surprise her. But when the movie begins, Oota is the first one who almost screams. Though he tries to remain composed, each new jump scare makes it harder to hide his low fear resistance. Kashiwada, on the other hand, remains perfectly calm and observes him with quiet curiosity. As Oota tries to get her to look at the screen, a sudden romantic cutscene plays. His face turns bright red and he averts his eyes, worried that Kashiwada might misinterpret his awkwardness. Beside him, Kashiwada begins to shake slightly, not from the horror, but from pure silent amusement. As the movie continues, Oota urges her to watch, convinced the next scare will finally get a reaction out of her. He decides it's the perfect time for the jelly prank, but when he checks his inventory, the jelly is missing. Kashiwada spots the small quest item sitting right beside her. She calmly picks it up and hands it to him, just as a terrifying monster image flashes on screen. When the audience finally exits the theater, Oota looks like he's been through a high-difficulty raid. Kashiwada, however, remarks that the movie was enjoyable and that Oota's hilarious reactions made it even better. Totally embarrassed, Oota hides his face, insisting to himself that he just didn't expect such a heavy ending. Kashiwada notices the tears in his eyes and offers tissues, but Oota refuses and storms ahead in a panic. She follows him into town until her attention is caught by a nearby arcade, which is great because Oota reluctantly joins her and they try their luck at the claw machine minigame. After several failed attempts, Oota finally wins a small rabbit plush to add to her collection. Kashiwada takes it with quiet delight, even if her expression is still set to the default setting. Their outing continues as Kashiwada points toward a cafe known for its high-tier parfaits. They step inside and she orders the shop's seasonal special loot. Watching her devour the dessert, Oota realizes that beneath her calm skin, Kashiwada enjoys the same things as any normal girl. On the train ride home, Kashiwada gradually enters sleep mode, her head resting gently on Oota's shoulder. Totally flustered, Oota stays perfectly still, growing more embarrassed as nearby passengers gush over how cute they look. The next morning, Oota's friends immediately ask how the movie went and if Kashiwada finally got scared. Oota, still mortified by the Sunday event, dodges the questions and refuses to answer. Sada then claims he's discovered a way to truly surprise our stoic MC. This piques Oota's interest, and Sada tells him all he needs to do is grab her hand. Though skeptical, Oota decides to attempt this bold move. When he does, his own face turns scarlet, and he quickly lets go, shouting in pure embarrassment. His friends watch his overreaction, while Kashiwada looks down at her hand, with a faint, shy expression forming. As soon as the bell rings, the boys notice Kashiwada rushing out of the classroom like she's on a timed mission. Oota assumes she's plotting something odd and suggests they follow her, hoping to find some secret leverage. Skeptical but curious, his friends tag along, certain Kashiwada will somehow win whatever unspoken competition Oota has in mind. They trail her across campus until they find her crouched in a quiet corner outside. To their surprise, she's holding a small kitten in her hands. Sada immediately notices how attached the kitten seems and asks where she found this new companion. Kashiwada explains she found it abandoned and has been secretly caring for it because her father dislikes cats and wouldn't allow the pet at home. The kitten meows softly, prompting her to bring out a small bottle of milk loot. Oota notices it's not ordinary milk, but high-quality formula meant specifically for kittens. They watch as she gently feeds the creature, her expression remaining perfectly calm and unchanged. Sada quietly remarks that even if she doesn't show it, she must be happy to see the kitten every day. Oota mutters that he wouldn't be able to tell, though his gaze lingers on the way she carefully holds the animal. She seems to notice and unexpectedly offers him the kitten so he can try petting it. Oota refuses at first, but when she insists, he reaches out, only for the kitten to hiss and swipe its tiny paw at him. Startled, Oota pulls back as his friends tease him that the kitten clearly hates his vibes. Sada then warns her that keeping a cat on school grounds isn't safe, especially after the server resets at night. They suggest finding the cat a proper forever home. Since Sada and Tadakoro can't adopt it, Kashiwada turns to Oota and asks if he could take it in. Tadakoro tenses, expecting Oota to use this for leverage, but Oota simply declines the offer. Instead, he suggests they all work together to find an owner who can care for it properly. Tadakoro can't help but smile, thinking Oda is a strange person who occasionally acts totally out of character. Suddenly, they hear Tabuchi's voice, and she appears from the bushes telling the group to leave everything to her. Oda insults her immediately as she eagerly approaches Kashiwata and the kitten. Oda begins typing on his phone, muttering that he's already working on finding a new owner. He proudly shows off a social media post, confident it will reach his massive following. But Tadakoro points out that Oda only has 3 followers, so that plan is basically a flop. Sada suggests they all help by asking around for NPCs who might want a pet. Tabuchi volunteers to ask everyone at school, while Oda stays behind to try and attract more followers for his post. He excitedly announces his post was already shared, but gets discouraged when he learns it was only Tadakoro who reposted it. The party splits up to find an owner, but they all have a hard time finding a volunteer. Most people aren't interested or have pets that would start a PvP match with the kitten. They eventually meet back at the starting point, feeling like the mission is a total failure. Just then, Oda's phone pings, and he tells the group someone actually wants to adopt the cat. The person lives in the next town over and will be passing by the school tomorrow for the trade. As the others hype up Oda for finding an owner, Kashiwata quietly stares at the kitten in the box. The next day, they meet the woman who wants the cat, and she promises to be a great guardian. She vows to take good care of the little furball. When Kashiwata hands the box over, she has a hard time letting go and begins to shake. After a few seconds, she finally releases the loot, and the woman walks away with the kitten. The others head back, but Kashiwata and Oda stay behind, watching the woman disappear from the map. Oda notices she's still clutching the formula she bought for the cat. He pats her head, reassuring her that she'll meet the kitten again in a future season. Kashiwata's eyes begin to tear up, but she agrees with Oda's wholesome words. The next morning, Kashiwata dashes out of class as soon as the bell rings. Oda finds it sus and decides to follow her, thinking he's finally found her weakness. He discovers she rushed all the way to the woman's house just to check on the cat. Tabuchi then greets Kashiwata with a happy birthday and reveals she bought her a gift. She hands it over, and Kashiwata is genuinely surprised even if her face doesn't show it. Tabuchi is proud she bought the item in secret just to surprise her idol. As Kashiwata unwraps the loot, Oda approaches, wondering if it really is her birthday. He asks how Tabuchi knew, and she says it's only natural since they're besties. Inside the package, Kashiwata finds a whole bunch of cat-themed items for her desk. She says they're all cute, but Oda notices a massive pile of message cards and starts trolling Tabuchi. He says Kashiwata probably thinks she's a creep, but Tabuchi insists she isn't and waits for the reaction. Kashiwata picks up a small cat charm, thanking Tabuchi and even adding Chan to her name. Tabuchi is hyped, realizing that suffix means she's officially a close friend now. Soon, the rest of the boys join in to wish her a happy spawn day. They encourage Oda to greet her, but he refuses, claiming it's a total waste of time. Tadakoro insists that she probably wants to hear it from our MC the most. Kashiwata's eyes turn toward Oda, silently waiting for the dialogue choice. Under pressure, he fumbles his words and accidentally blurts out an insult instead of a greeting. The whole lobby freezes, and his friends scold him for being way out of line on her birthday. Tabuchi warns him to apologize before class ends, but Oda brushes it off and rage quits the room. Everyone looks disappointed except for Kashiwata, who just watches him leave in silence. By sunset, the squad is still salty at Oda for never wishing her a happy birthday. Oda mentions she was following him all day, and Tadakoro explains she was just waiting for the greeting. Oda stubbornly refuses to admit his mistake and heads home to his own base. But by the time he arrives, he feels major guilt and sends her some funny lime stamps. Kashiwata notices her phone pinging and sees his messages. Her heart flutters as she starts typing out a reply. Oda sees her cheerful response and gets hyped, finally feeling like the mission was a success. His parents notice his high-energy mood and assume he's finally messaging a girl. While Kashiwata eagerly waits for a reply, but Oda is still theory-crafting what to say. She leaves her phone behind when her mother pings her for dinner and birthday cake, missing a barrage of new messages from Oda that include greetings and cat photos, though she remains offline. Oda anxiously waits for a response as his parents watch from the table, amused that their son is so obvious. One morning, Sada introduces himself to the viewers, clarifying that while his name sounds like Sada, it's actually Sada. He adds that NPCs often comment on how his eyes appear completely lifeless. Regardless of the situation, he finds it difficult to relate to his friends, and this lack of enthusiasm is his permanent status effect. Suddenly, that same day, he receives a confession from a girl he doesn't even know. He can't recall ever speaking to her, and admits that he hasn't leveled up his romance stats at all. After leaving the girl, Sada heads to the classroom, where he notices Oota bothering Kashiwata once again. He quietly admits that he genuinely enjoys spectating the interaction between these two. When the teacher distributes test scores, Oota unsurprisingly receives a 0, obliterating his grade. Sada observes that Oda's thoughts are always transparent because of his expressive face. In contrast, Kashiwata remains expressionless regardless of her results. When Oota asks about her score, she admits she received a 40, which is mid, but Oota assumes she is looking down on him, though in truth, she is quietly disappointed with her performance. Later, Oota attempts to startle her with a toy snake, but Kashiwata turns the tables by frightening him instead. From his seat, Sada observes with mild astonishment that she actually resisted his prank. He reflects that watching them and trying to predict their next move is high-tier entertainment. If he had to label their relationship, he couldn't, but he senses a mutual attraction is definitely active. The next day, Sada notices Kashiwata staring out the window looking somewhat dejected, and suddenly Oota calls out to her, but she immediately activates her dash and runs away. This occurs repeatedly throughout the day, as Kashiwata continues to avoid Oota at all costs. Oota grows frustrated with being ignored, while Tadakoro teases him for the rejection. Sada, however, senses that a major event must have caused such a change in her behavior. He decides to approach Kashiwata privately to ask if something is wrong with her playthrough. Kashiwata hesitantly confesses she tried to cut her own bangs, and the result turned out odd. Sada suppresses a chuckle, telling her that Oota wouldn't even notice since they look normal, but he observes how she keeps touching her hair and concludes she's just trying to look good for her crush. Sada reassures her again, even offering a rare smile to help her relax her guard. Just then, Oota accidentally makes a sound, alerting them both to his presence nearby. When he tries to sneak away, Sada stops him so he doesn't get the wrong idea. He asks Kashiwata for permission to tell Oota the real reason she's been avoiding him. After hearing the explanation, Oota calls Kashiwata stupid for worrying about something so minor. He then offers to fix them for her, which absolutely shocks everyone in the room. Pulling out his scissors, he confidently insists this hair quest will be an easy win. To everyone's surprise, Kashiwata agrees and lets him start the trimming process. However, as Oota snips away, he realizes he made a mistake and makes it worse trying to even it out. By the time he's finished, her bangs are noticeably shorter than her default skin. Oota forces a smile and insists they look good, but Kashiwata bluntly tells him his face says otherwise. Embarrassed, Oota hides his face and starts suggesting different hairstyles as Tadakoro bursts out laughing. Kashiwata remains expressionless, but it's clear she's in rage mode about her new bangs. Watching the scene, Sada quietly concludes that she probably doesn't like Oota right now. The next day, the teacher announces that spring break will begin tomorrow morning. He reminds the class to finish their homework, calling out Oota because he knows he'll skip it. After class, Oota fumes about being singled out as his friends coax him to walk home. Sada teases him, asking if he'll be lonely without seeing Kashiwata for the break. Oota stubbornly denies it, claiming it's a relief, but his eyes still follow her as she leaves. Tadakoro starts laughing hysterically, saying Oda's face completely leaked his true feelings, and Oota tells him to shut up but suddenly jumps when Kashiwata spawns right behind him. He scolds her for startling him, insisting he just saw her outside a second ago. Kashiwata reminds him about the upcoming Christmas party, and Tadakoro recalls the event is tomorrow. Sada notes that attendance is voluntary, but Oota immediately declares he has no intention of joining a lame gift exchange to eat sweets. He adds that he doesn't see the point of celebrating Christmas because it's totally stupid. Kashiwata stares at him in silence for so long that he eventually has to look back at her. She quietly asks if he could attend the party for her. After a long pause, Oota finally mutters a reluctant okay, and Tadakoro loses it at his soft response. Kashiwata, meanwhile, is inwardly happy she managed to convince him to join her party. Later that day, Oota sulks about needing a gift until he realizes this is the perfect chance to troll her. Just then, a strong, foul odor suddenly fills the entire apartment. His sister walks in holding a canned fish, explaining she bought it because it seemed interesting. Oota complains about her shopping habits, saying the stench is proof that eating it is a terrible idea. She ignores him and walks away, but Oota suddenly realizes what to get Kashiwata for the exchange. The next day, Tadakoro spots Oda arriving at the venue with his mystery item. Tadakoro admits he decided to show up because the party actually seemed fun. He also reveals he didn't buy anything and just brought some old loot from home he didn't need. They soon notice Kashiwada looking around the lobby for them. When she spots them, she approaches, clutching her present close to her chest. Oda immediately asks what she brought, but she refuses to leak any info. He tries to guess but can't, mostly because he's too focused on her face to think. Oda proudly says he brought a festive present, but Tadakoro turns pale, certain it's a nightmare for the receiver. The gift exchange is about to begin, and Tabuchi steps forward to start the event. She points out a huge box from the teacher meant for the entire class, telling them to open it last. What no one knows is that the teacher is actually inside that box dressed as Santa. He believes popping out will make everyone laugh and help him shed his scary reputation. Tadakoro leans toward Oda and says he knows about the prank, but asks how he'll target Kashiwada. Oda looks confused until Tabuchi announces all presents will be shuffled randomly. Realizing there's no guarantee she'll receive his gift, Oda goes into full panic mode. He complains that no one told him the rules, but Tadakoro says that's how gift exchanges work. Just then, Tadakoro notices Kashiwada shivering and asks if she's cold, but she's actually just startled. Meanwhile, Oda starts brainstorming ways to rig the results until his bag starts leaking. Suddenly, a strong, fishy smell spreads through the room like a poison cloud. Everyone is gagging and looking around, trying to find where the stench is spawning from. The class starts complaining in disbelief as the smell grows completely unbearable. Tabuchi finally orders everyone outside for fresh air, and the students rush out, blaming Oda for the fail. Kashiwada also leaves, but glances back with a worried look flickering across her face. Inside, Oda scrambles to find the leaking can and wraps it in layers of plastic and tape. While he's busy cleaning up his mess, Kashiwada approaches him. Startled, Oda hides the trash behind his back, but she simply holds out a neatly wrapped gift. She tells him it's her official Christmas present for him. Oda freezes, completely taken aback that she actually prepared something just for him. When he unwraps it, he finds a green scarf inside his inventory. Kashiwada explains softly that she wanted that specific gift to go directly to him. Feeling awkward and pressured to give back, Oda hurriedly pulls out his old gloves for her. Kashiwada assumes they're a chosen gift and slips them on, saying the looseness has its own charm. Late that night, the teacher finally lifts the lid, only to find the room completely empty. He never realized everyone had already evacuated the server because of the smell. During the New Year event, Oda is gaming while his sister sorts the holiday cards. One catches her eye since it's addressed to Oda personally. She points out the cute drawings and guesses the sender must be a girl. When she reads the name Kashiwada, Oda instantly turns red and hits 100% panic. He rushes to snatch the letter, but his sister teases him by holding it out of reach. She laughs, asking if Kashiwada is his crush, and starts reading the card out loud. She notes it sounds like a confession, but it turns out to be just a simple greeting. He scolds his sister for making fun of his social life. He remembers she once asked for his address and figured she just wanted to be polite. Still, he feels some major guilt for not sending one back to her. His sister asks if Kashiwada is the same girl he's been chatting with online. Oda snaps back, demanding to know how she knew, then realizes he just admitted it. His sister laughs, claiming she's just being an S-tier older sibling. His sister invites him to a shrine visit, but he tries to decline the quest. She threatens to tell their dad about the letter, so Oda immediately changes his mind and party-ups with her. At the shrine, they make their prayers, and his sister is happy he finally decided to join the raid. But just as they're heading out, Sada pops up out of nowhere to catch our MC off guard with a greeting. Sada casually mentions the canned fish incident, leaving Oda's sister completely confused by the weird lore. Then they notice Kashiwada nearby. Oda can't believe the RNG of this coincidence. His sister catches him staring and asks what's so interesting about this girl. Oda says it's just weird how Kashiwada always looks so totally emotionless. His sister, however, thinks her doll-like expression is actually top-tier adorable. Oda disagrees, which just makes his sister smirk like she knows exactly what's up. He tries to hurry home, but then spots Kashiwada pulling a fortune card. He wonders if she's happy, while Sada teases that he's always watching her closely. Flustered, Oda covers his eyes so no one can tell where his camera is pointed. Trying to save face, he insists he doesn't even know her, but then she winks at him. He tries to play it cool, but she runs over and touches the scarf she gave him, clearly hyped that he's actually wearing it. Panicking like a total noob, Oota pretends she's a stranger and claims the loot was just a random gift from an NPC. Sada just sighs in the chat, pointing out that Oota's lying stats are getting absolutely ridiculous. But meanwhile, Oota's sister is loving the drama, wrapping her arms around him and faking a girlfriend role. Kashiwada watches with that permanent poker face until the sister suddenly switches aggro and grabs her, wanting to experiment with her character model's limited expressions. Oota is horrified by the new quest line, while Sada notes how quickly his sister changes her target focus. She starts dragging Kashiwada toward their base, but Kashiwada gets a ping from her parents and has to log off early. Before she extracts, the sister tells Oota he better invite Kashiwada over next time so she can finish her high-difficulty expression research. GG's for watching today's run. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss